North Carolina was in the market for a younger football coach, and they got him.
This is Tyler Hansbrough, and you're listening to Locked On Tar Heels.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? It's Wednesday, December 11th, 2024. Welcome into this live edition of the Locked On Tar Heels podcast. It's great to be together with you on a Wednesday night. We got some crazy news to get into. Locked On Tar Heels, the only daily North Carolina show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Shade. I'm joined tonight by our good buddy Josh Marlowe from the Heel Tough blog. He's already been live tonight on his own show, and now we're going live together to unpack this crazy news about Bill Belichick. Special shout out to all you everydayers joining us, all the members of the Locked On Tar Heels Discord channel, and of course our insiders as well. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers, place a $5 bet, and if you win, you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Marlo, we got a lot to get in here today. Obviously, we don't know all the details, all the parameters, but we'll talk about what we do know. We'll make speculations. We'll look ahead. But first, my man, I just want to dive in big picture. What was your initial reaction? Not to this news of it becoming official, but back when the rumors about Bill Belichick started breaking over the weekend.
Well, first off, Oz, I just want to thank you for having me on once again. Love talking heels with you. I'll reiterate what I've said when it first broke last week. I thought it was a joke. I didn't put a whole lot of stock in it. I thought it was basically a double-sided PR move. Bill Belichick trying to draw up interest in him from the NFL head coaching ranks. We know there are going to be some coveted jobs that will come available in the NFL. And then for Carolina, I think they were trying to maybe make their job a little bit more attractive than what it was at the time. And then you get into the weekend and you find out, no, where there's smoke, there's fire. There was interest on both ends. And then as someone that is a fan of the program that covers it, I was sold after the McAfee interview on Monday. And you can sit here and tell me that those were pre-written answers, pre-thought out answers. I do not care. He still had to execute the answers in a way that made me believe that he was actually interested in not chasing the NFL all-time win record and coming down to college and trying to win at a level that he has never won at before as a head coach. And everything he said resonated. After Monday afternoon, I was hoping that this was going to be the next head football coach at Carolina. And it's a weird place to be in as someone that vocalized his support for Mack Brown. Did not want Mack Brown to be fired. Did not agree with the way that decision went down. But I can sit here tonight and say that I feel more optimistic about the future of Carolina football than I did 2 weeks ago. And a big reason why is you just hired a head coach at the NFL level that won 6 Super Bowls that's motivated to win at the college level.
And it's funny, Josh, because you and I were talking about before we came on how just kind of, even though we've been wrapping our brains around this for the better part of a week now, it's still the reality of it that kind of came out tonight with North Carolina officially announcing pending Thursday morning's board approval that this is full go. Like the reality of it feels like a fever dream kind of thing. Like, is this happening? It's Bill Belichick, for crying out loud. Like, this is crazy talk. How are you processing it now that the reality is starting to at least somewhat set in?
I mean, as someone I've been in the business going on, I think 5-6 years now, that was on his way on vacation when Roy Williams retired. This is, I think, the craziest thing I've ever been a part of, because you just had the best football coach maybe of all time, no matter what level, chose North Carolina. And I think that's something that, as a Carolina fan, man, that should excite you. Whether you hear from the fact that the NFL doesn't want him, I find that hard to believe. He still chose you. And as much as we had to choose him, he had to believe in the potential to come here and win, and had to be able to outline a plan of success and elevating this program to a place that we've never gone before. And so now that we're sitting here and it's real, like the graphic, when the Tar Heel football account made it, made it known. Like, it just felt really surreal because as a lifelong fan that has dreamt and starved for football success, and we've gotten a taste of it here and there under Larry Fedora, and Mack Brown had us on the cusp of it. I think now it's truly okay to believe that North Carolina will be a factor on the football field under Bill Belichick because of the commitments that this university made from a financial standpoint to a man that I still think can still coach as well as anybody, and is going to put together the best staff that we've ever seen, and really give this program a chance to succeed at a level that I don't think we thought was possible a few weeks ago.
I completely agree with that, because like there's the thing of like people talking about this going to fail and not go well. Look, you're coming off a 6-6 season. What 7-5 is a better year next year, right? Like, so it doesn't take much to get to a better standpoint next year. Josh, I know you just laid out a lot of things that you see as part of making this successful. Is there anything else you would enumerate, like to finish the sentence? This hire is successful if.
That's a great question, because I don't think there's a wrong answer to it, because I don't see a way that this fails. I think you definitely say it's a success if he coaches the length of the contract,
which is 5 years, by the way, if you haven't heard.
Yeah. If he elevates you to a place that you want to be elevated to, which is, I think it's reasonable to expect this team to be in the playoff discussion under his tenure. You look at Mack Brown's last 2 seasons before this past year. Carolina was 9-1 and they were 6-0. And yes, we spent the majority of the time talking about how they did not finish the season strong, rightfully so. But if you put those 2 teams, Isaac, in the 12-team playoff the 12-team playoff format, we're talking about North Carolina as a playoff contender, whether as a conference champion or as an at-large bid. And so I think it's reasonable to expect, with you hiring a coach the stature of Bill Belichick, giving him the resources you're giving him from a financial standpoint to put together a on-the-field coaching staff and a off-the-field recruiting staff, to have Carolina back in those same conversations starting next year. And so for me, I think it's going to be a success no matter what, but I think it's a definite success if Carolina either makes the playoff or is at least a playoff contender every year under Belichick's tenure.
How quickly does that need to be, right? Like in this transfer portal era, you don't have excuses for not a quick turnaround, right? Like I'm thinking of other ACC, like it's a different sport, obviously, but Kenny Payne at Louisville, man, that was a terrible 2 years for Louisville. And there's no excuse anymore for, I got to get my guys in. I need 4 years to get this thing turned around and build up my nope. With the transfer portal and with the money that Carolina is investing in this thing, there's no reason to not expect that it's going to be up and running next year, right? I just mean, like, Coach Belichick has to have this thing up and off the ground literally next season.
Yes. I mean, I think if you want to say by year 2, because, there is going to be an adjustment period for him. There is going to be, I think, some sort of a learning curve just to the way the college, I guess, schedule flows in and of itself, right? But I would say by year 2, I think with the portal and with the NIL commitments that it appears that this program is willing to make, it's not a distant cry to think that Carolina won't be a factor year 1. You're going to see major roster turnover. I kind of compared it to what Deion Sanders did when he showed up to Colorado. When Bill Belichick sets foot in Chapel Hill and he really evaluates this roster from top to bottom, there will be, I think, a handful of players that he will tell, it's time for you to go somewhere else. You don't fit the criteria of what I want in a football player, but he'll know that he can go into the portal and replace that talent, replace that depth right away. We know that the recruiting class was small that Mack Brown put together. Expect recruiting to change in a big way starting in the very near future. And so I think that the talent will be coming in waves that you saw under Mack Brown. And Mack Brown recruited playoff caliber talent to Chapel Hill. So I think you will see a drastic improvement in year one. But I think by year two would be the latest you would see Belichick's impact on the field really set Carolina into a position where we're talking about them as a conference champion contender, at-large playoff contender.
And we saw some of those personnel things already start to happen. For example, Carolina had lost 3/5 of their starting offensive line to the transfer portal already, Josh. Today, Austin Blasky has already pulled his name out of the portal and said, I'm sticking around. I don't think he's going to be the only one. And beyond that, you talked about the small high school recruiting class. There's a young man that's the number 1 tight end in the class of 26, Kendra Harrison, who's off to Oregon right now. Bill Belichick better be knocking down his door tonight, getting in on that, right? Do you think that, there's no world where they're not circling back around to every one of those young men?
Yeah, because now you have a head coach that, can go to the recruiting table when he needs to. And I think a lot of people thought, is this guy going to be, spending hours and days recruiting? No, he's not. They're going to put together a staff to go handle that, like what Deion Sanders has in place at Colorado. But when the point in time comes for them to sell to seal the deal, Bill Belichick will walk in there with 8 Super Bowl rings. How many other coaches are doing that? There aren't any. And he'll be able to say, look, I know what it takes to be successful at this level. I'm putting together a staff that'll get you ready to go to that level and be an impactful player at the NFL level. And so I would imagine that Carolina goes back to him and a bunch of other recruits and really target that second signing day period as another wave of talent to come into the program, because quite simply, we have never seen a recruiter. We've never seen a coach that has the status of Bill Belichick recruit for Carolina football, and that will make a difference. I know he's 73 years old, but people know the name Bill Belichick. That name will resonate. Talent will flock to Chapel Hill in ways that not even Mack Brown is able to do in his 2 stints on the job.
Well, look, Josh, he's practically a spring chicken compared to Mack Brown. Mack Brown, born August 27th, 1951. Belichick's like 7 months younger, April 16th, 1952. So we're golden. We're in great shape over here, man. It's going to be awesome. All right, look, folks, Josh and I have plenty more to talk about as we get into all this, including what does this mean for basketball? Is it going to hurt with some of the financial, or is it a rising tide raises all boats? That and many more conversations coming up in just a second. Right after I tell you about our good friends at FanDuel. Get ready to tackle NFL action with FanDuel. It's America's #1 sports book, because right now, new customers, you can bet $5, and if you win, you get $150 back in bonus bets. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So maybe you get a hunch in the middle of the game. Well, you can check out the latest stats. You can view live play-by-play and so much more. Literally one-stop shopping right there on that same page. If you want to go check it out, man, there's lines for the coming up basketball games, RJ Davis, National Player of the Year. He's fallen quite a bit, down to 6th, tied with Hunter Dickinson right now, but all sorts of odds just like that. College football playoff odds, maybe the Tar Heels are in it soon. They're not right now, but those odds are there as well. Go check it all out at FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Marlo, I don't know if the same has been true for you. I have experienced my fair share of skeptics this week. Many of my fellow Locked On hosts, especially from the ACC, have just given it to me all week long. I've had texts from people. This is not going to work. He doesn't know how to recruit. He's never been in college. He's too all of this stuff. What would you say to the skeptics, or would you even bother, because they're all people outside and it's like, just let them talk?
Well, no, I mean, I definitely encountered them as well. Got into a very passionate argument this morning on the radio show that I produce with the guy that, wants it to work but has his doubts. Look, there's reason to be skeptical, right? Because he hasn't coached in the last year or so. We've never seen him do it at the college level. I just find it hard to believe for a coach that is as motivated as he is to get back into coaching. Like, he doesn't need this. He's got plenty of money. We've seen his personal life. I think he's well occupied and well entertained outside of being in the office 16 to 18 hours a day. But when you go back to his last year at New England, he was still the first guy in the facility, the last guy out of the facility. This is who he is. This is what his life is. He wants to coach. And I think he just got to the point where, if it wasn't going to be at the NFL level, well, then I'll go to college and I'll be able to put myself in a position to be successful. It's not like he just took any job. I think he looked at the uniqueness of what Carolina is, the opportunity that it presents, and he did his homework and he did his research. And we're learning more and more of the influence that Nick Saban had on this hire as well, who is his best friend in the coaching world. And so the people are going to be skeptical. They're going to be doubtful. But I think this man has spent the last year and a half reinventing himself, figuring out how he could adapt his coaching model to today's athlete, and now his coaching model to a different level of football, now being at the college level. But I still find it hard to believe that a guy that has winning in his DNA, he is a winner. I find it hard to believe that he is going to fall flat on his face at Carolina.
100%. 100%. Another factor in this for me, Josh, is conference realignment continues to be a thing. I think you and I are people that would love for Carolina to be able to stay in the ACC. We are traditionalists in so many ways. Like, we love what college athletics has been for so long. I feel confident that I can speak for you in that, just knowing the conversations we've had through the years. And I see you nodding your head as I say that. Yeah. That said, Carolina, it is well known. It has been publicized that the Tar Heels are one of, if not the most desirable school in the ACC by what many might call now the Power to the SEC and the Big Ten. Carolina is already there, but a move like this that makes Carolina football relevant, that might make Carolina even, just taking football to a true, honest, annually competitive level is only going to make this university even more desirable from a conference realignment standpoint, should that ever become a necessity, which you and I, again, hope is not the case. If it is, the Tar Heels now are all the more sexy from that standpoint.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say it's time to start accelerating your clock for Carolina's departure from the ACC. I ultimately think they'll wind up in the SEC. Part of that's because I think I want to be a just means more type of guy and wave that pom-pom on selection Sundays for both college football and college basketball. But this is a move that is a commitment from the university to being at the forefront of college athletics on and off the field. Because I think something that's really hard to say out loud for people that believe in that interlocking light blue NC was Carolina was being left behind in this NIL world. And a big reason why is because of the TV contract they're tied into, right, with the conference that they're tied into, that is not only holding back the likes of Clemson and Florida State, it's holding back the likes of a North Carolina. And so this type of move with this type of financial commitment is only going to get the attention of an SEC, of a Big Ten that can sit here and say publicly all they want that they're at peace and they're not looking to add. We all know that North Carolina is the next domino to fall in conference realignment. I have come around to my belief that they would not be in the league through 2036 when the grant of rights does finally end. I think this move is just another indicator that I think by the end of this decade, Shade, we'll be talking about North Carolina athletics in a different conference other than the ACC.
It grieves me, but I'm just trying to embrace it and do what we need to do. Marlo, let's not confuse this, right? Like, so many people have made the joke to me this week, and I've probably said it myself. Carolina Tar Heels football school. Are we a football school? This is a football school now, right? Let's not twist it. This is and always will be a basketball school first and foremost. However, This is doing work to try to bring football up to that same level of notoriety. What I think a question that a lot of people are going to ask is, with all this money committed to North Carolina football, is that going to hurt the basketball program? Or is it going to be a situation, as I alluded to earlier, that maybe a rising tides lifts all boats? Where would you land in that conversation?
Well, Shane, I find it hard to believe, knowing the impact that Carolina basketball has, that they would make a financial commitment to football and leave behind a program that's got 7 national championships and 20-something Final Fours to its ledger. So what I think is, I think this is the first big move of a second move that's going to follow, where you're going to see Carolina become very aggressive on the basketball side of things, giving Hubert Davis the resources to compete on and off the court. I find it hard to believe that there will not be more NIL commitments coming forward on the basketball side of things. I think a move like a general manager, which Bill Belichick has already hired, will be coming to Carolina basketball in the near future. And we all know that a new basketball arena is on the horizon in some form or fashion, whether they rebuild the Smith Center or relocate to a new arena. So I look at this as, you're using football as a way to elevate and bring up all your other programs on campus and really put them in the best financial position to compete on and off the field. So no, North Carolina football, or North Carolina is not a football school, but it has the resources and the capabilities to winning at both. And I think there are enough people that are now starved to win on the football side of things that they finally put their money where their mouth is to put the program in a position to achieve the type of success on the football field that we've grown accustomed to on the basketball court.
That's right. It certainly is, in this NIL transfer portal era, a spend money to make money situation.
Yep.
And also, we've just been specifically saying football and basketball. This is a university that cherishes and values all its varsity sports, and is not, unless there is a drastic change, this university is not going to give up on those. We just saw a couple nights ago the North Carolina women's soccer team win the national championship. Field hockey should have won the national championship, right? Lost to St. Joe's in the Final Four. So many sports at which Carolina is a massive major contender. And with revenue share coming in and all this other stuff, it's going to be increasingly more difficult to keep all those sports afloat. And I think ultimately this is an investment that's going to long-term help all of those sports.
Yeah. And I think that's your hope. And I think it's kind of your expectation, because I think one thing that Carolina prides itself on is yes, the basketball program is the front porch of the university. But you look at this athletic department top to bottom, name me a better one in college athletics that has the type of success in men's sports and women's sports, and then, of course, what they do in the non-revenue sports as well. And so you're now using this as really a way to generate more revenue to distribute to your non-revenue sports, to make sure that you're still not just competing, but dominating the way that we've grown accustomed to at women's soccer, field hockey, tennis, and the like. And so, Carolina has been, I think, and it shows you how good the department is top to bottom, that they've been able to win in all these different areas without there being the financial support in football, with the financial kickback, with all the money that it's going to make. Now you're going to put in the money to football. It's going to make you even more money, which then you can distribute to your other programs to ensure that Carolina, top to bottom, is competing at the highest level possible.
Josh and I want to forecast ahead just a little bit. What might have happened if this had fallen through some of the other head coaching possibilities? What should we be looking for? Filling out the staff, personnel, players, all of that. We'll go a couple more minutes and talk some more coming up just a second. Marlo, we had multiple reports coming out as all of this was happening on Wednesday night about what would have happened had this fallen through with Bill Belichick. And I got to be honest, with all the names we had heard until tonight, I had not even heard Tommy Rees's name enter into this conversation, but it sounds like from reports from multiple people, I wish I could point to all of them, but I was flying through things and didn't write it all down, that Tommy Rees, who I most remember as Notre Dame's quarterback, was the favorite to land the job if it hadn't gone through with Coach Belichick, who is currently the Browns passing game specialist and tight end coach. He had apparently interviewed twice. Nick Saban was an advocate for him, which is that's tough for Coach Saban being in the mix with both of those guys. And then others in the mix were Glenn Schumann, who's the DC at UGA, and Jeff Monken, the head coach at Army. Marlo, let's dream in a world where this had not gone through, and one of those three gentlemen was the next head coach at North Carolina. Do you feel the same way you do now if that had been the case?
No, I do not. First off, the fact that I'm old enough to now see Tommy Rees's name in head coaching searches makes me feel some type of way, because I remember watching Tommy Rees play quarterback at Notre Dame and be a part of that team that made the BCS title game in 2012.
And got
when it comes to Glenn Schumann, and look, there's a desire to become better on the defensive side of the football. I was not comfortable hiring someone that, look, I know that he worked for Nick Saban and was working for Kirby Smart. I'm not a big fan of the way Kirby's program runs off the field. And so I wasn't comfortable elevating a guy that I know could win on the field, but do I got to worry about, my guys doing stuff off the field in a way that is going to bring negative attention to the university?
That's
and
right.
So, with Jeff Monken, I'll tell you this, I was enthralled with the idea of him. And then you do the research, and his last three stops, the triple option was the main source of offense. Didn't seem like a guy that would be willing to adapt. And I just don't know. I know Paul Johnson was able to do it for a long time at Georgia Tech. I just don't know how feasible it is to win at a high level running that style of offense. I'd have loved the culture that he would have brought, the toughness that he would have brought.
Sure.
But I don't know if he would have brought the wins that we wanted. So there's no doubt that considering where we're sitting now, if this would have fallen through and Carolina was making a hire, I think we would feel a lot more differently about the outlook and the future of the program, because none of those three guys obviously don't invoke the confidence that you have in Bill Belichick. But I would argue that the program would have endured even more regression than what we've seen the last year and a half under Mack Brown.
I think that's a great take, man. I can definitely get behind that. Bill Belichick, this contract per North Carolina's official release is for 5 years. Marlo, we have to recognize and identify this is not a long-term solution, right? If we're talking about a 20-year hire, this is not that. He'd be 90-something at that point. So what is, like, obviously we're thinking in the short term a little bit, but long term, is the hope for North Carolina that Bill Belichick can set a culture and a new plan? As you referenced the McAfee interview earlier, where he was talking about, like, hey, this is going to be an NFL program at the collegiate level. Is the hope simply he's able to establish that over the next 5 or so years and then set that up to be able to hand it off to somebody, whether it's his son or not? We'll find out. But is that your hope for long-term success for Carolina?
Yeah, I think what you want to be doing when I'm joining you on this podcast in 2029 and we're talking about the new head football coach at Carolina, is you're talking about a coach that maybe has left a power conference job because of what North Carolina football represents and what it offers, which is a chance to win at the highest level. When this job came open, you had people like Josh Payton telling us, hey, this job is going to be desired. Greg McElroy thought it was a very coveted job. And then we get into the coaching search and we can say whatever we want, but when you're getting outwardly turned down by the Tulane head coach, that's the evidence that this job was not as desired as it was made out to be. I think in large part was because of the NIL infrastructure that was in place under Mack Brown. And I do think that there was concerns about that. If Carolina commits the way that they've committed to Bill Belichick and it leads to 5 years of success, and let's say in the next 5 years they play in 4 conference title games, they win their first conference title since 1980, and make multiple, if not just one single berth in the playoff, when Bill Belichick hands it off, it'll be that coveted job that we were told it was when Mack Brown got fired a little over 2 weeks ago. And so I think what you're looking for is a complete and total culture shift on and off the field, where you're seeing Carolina invest off the field in football and it result in wins on the field, making this a desired job whenever Bill Belichick ultimately retires from coaching, hopefully 5 years from now.
Josh, there's something I've literally just thought about in real time here. There's another ACC program that, you know, in the years leading up to hiring a new coach, 6-5, 8-4, 8-5, 9-4, 7-6. That sounds very familiar to what we've just experienced. They hire a new coach, go 9-5, 6-7 in his first 2 years, and then literally every season except last season, they've won 10 games since. And that's the Clemson Tigers. Is there any world in which, like, when Dabo took over, man, it was a year or two, but then they have been a juggernaut ACC team ever since? Could we be that?
I think it's fair to say so. I you know, one of the messages that I made on our podcast earlier tonight is I'm encouraging Carolina fans to believe in that possibility, because it's as real as it's ever been. You look at the fertile recruiting ground that is in your backyard. You can build a playoff contender recruiting the state of North Carolina, the state of Georgia, and the state of Virginia. And I do think that, if you win, then people are going to want to continue to play for you. What Carolina's got to be able to do under Bill Belichick is what they failed to do under Mack Brown, is because, like, for the next few weeks, Carolina's going to be the cool place to be. How do you capitalize that, though, for 3 to 5 years, not just a year or two? And so I do think, Isaac, with what I think he's going to bring from a staff perspective, I think with the player development that he's going to be able to bring in here and be able to put guys in the league left and right, we know how much that resonates on the recruiting trail. I do think there's a situation where we look back at this hire as the signal of North Carolina football becoming the Oregon of the East Coast, where they are a perennial top 10, top 15 program year in, year out that is competing for conference championships and berth in a 12-team playoff. So, and I don't think I'd feel this way if Glenn Schumann, Jeff Monken, or Tommy Rees would have been the hire. Bill Belichick opens up a different world of possibilities that I don't think even we thought were possible when this job came open 2 weeks ago.
Man, Oregon, great Big Ten school. Just killing it.
a lot of history and tradition in the Big Ten.
A lot of history and tradition in the Big Ten. Well, Josh, obviously over the next couple of weeks, we're going to, as you talked about, watching what happens the next couple of weeks, we're going to learn a lot more about building the staff, a lot more about players either coming back or players coming in, any high school stuff. And so we're going to have to keep having lots of conversations to figure out where Carolina heads next. And it's going to be a wild ride and a lot of fun, probably confusing, exhilarating, sad. We'll cry happy tears. We'll cry weird tears, but it'll be a lot of fun. I tell you what, my friend, thank you so much for hopping on with me on a Wednesday evening to knock this out.
Isaac, I appreciate your time, and I'm looking forward to talking Tar Heels with you later down the road.
Love it. Pagnotta, man. We got to give him crap for skipping out tonight, right?
Yeah, I know.
What a turd. You guys, if you have not checked out Heel Tough Blog with Josh Marlowe and Anthony Pagnotta, please do, man. They do a phenomenal job with their coverage of all things Tar Heels. I'm thankful to call them brothers and be in this UNC media sports game together. If you haven't subscribed to our show on both YouTube and audio, make sure you do that so you don't miss a second of Locked On Tar Heels. If you're not part of the Locked On Tar Heels Discord family, we'd love to have you there. The link's in the show notes and it's free to join. Or if you want to go even deeper with the show, Locked On Tar Heels Insider Program, where you get to text me directly. You get free access to all of my charts, stats, data, all of that. You guys know the drill. It's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. We'll talk again tomorrow. Coach Rob's going to join me for some basketball conversation. But until then, peace.